Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending the first meeting of the 26th year. I'd like to call to order our January 20th meeting. Roll call, Janice, please.
Okay. Jose?
Here.
Robin's absent. Scott?
Here.
Dan's absent. Kristen?
Here.
And Chuck is absent.
At this time, if everyone could please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Mention that David is working here, just yeah. Just if you can.
For the record, we do have two town council members here tonight. The new president, Joe Walker, and Dave Nellis.
Thank you. And
Wendy Miss, who's always here.
And I do like the applause thing.
You got a great shirt on.
Thank you. It's that, gotta be in the mood, you know?
Yes. First order is public input. If anyone would like to approach the podium, we have any tonight. All right, public input going once, twice. Okay. Next is approval of our consent agenda.
A motion to approve the consent agenda.
Smith second.
Roll call, Janice.
Jose?
Yes.
Kristen?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes. I think everything was in order. It was out of order. Next is typically our town council liaison report. I don't know, Dave or Joe, if you have anything from the meeting last night that needs to be added.
Not pertaining to the parks.
Anything else in general that we need to be aware of?
There is a upcoming coffee with the council, right?
Oh.
That is
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock here, we're going to have a coffee with counselors. And the NICD representative will be here discussing the South Shore training. It's future. Also, we did make an appointment for the BCA, Dr. Gus Galante, and we are still working actively with interviews and with the park.
Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, I need to go back. We need to approve minutes from December 16th.
That was part of the consent agenda.
Okay,
part of the consent
sorry.
You're good. You're good. Minutes and
Still
vouchers.
gotta get used to it. Our next item is election of officers for the current year, 2026. Meaning the president, vice president, and our secretary.
No motion to approve.
Smith second.
You need to actually nominate who in which
So we
positions,
nominate,
or keep the same or whatever.
keep the same and nominate Janice as secretary.
Give a motion on the table.
Yeah.
I apologize, we have a
Yeah.
motion in a second, so
Seconded.
we need
Kristen?
a,
I'll resend my second.
Rescind your motion.
Shall we send?
Now make.
there we go.
Motion to keep the same board structure and also have Janice as our secretary.
Which for the record is Scott as president
Scott as
and
president.
Kristen is vice.
Jose is.
Or
Jose
Jose is
is
vice,
vice.
okay,
Yes.
I'm sorry. And then as you indicated, yes, Janice is recording secretary. Okay.
Please, I
And
second.
then you hit it.
Okay.
All right.
Roll call,
Jose?
Janice?
Yeah. Jose?
Yes.
Mhm. Kristen?
Yes.
Scott?
Yes. In lieu of a monthly report, Mark has a 2025 annual report covering the year.
So you guys have a paper copy of it up there. I'm gonna go through and highlight a few things off that. I want to make sure those other counselors and clerk treasurer had those in their hands as well. But we like to do this every January as a summation, kind of as I like to call it more of a year in review than an annual report, but it has a little bit of statistical data in there, but most of that stuff we leave up to Wendy's office to kind of get into, especially as it pertains to a lot of more detailed figures and things like that. But moving along, our staff for the year, we did create a maintainer 4 position last year that we promoted Ron Moss from our existing staff to that position. His previous maintainer 3 position, excuse me, was filled by Alex Himden, who came over to us from the Public Works Department. Myself and Jill, we both renewed our CPRP certification, and Ron Moss acquired his CPSI, which is his Certified Playground Safety Inspection certification in 2025. Jill was also appointed to the Learn Council, which is something for her to be very proud of. And myself, last year and actually this current year, I am the one of 2 Northern District representatives to the Indiana Park and Recreation Association Board, which represents park recreation agencies throughout the state of Indiana. So I also am on the Munster Chamber of Commerce Board through 2028. The department employed 135 part-time employees last year. Those included a lot of the typical lifeguards and pool staff, park maintenance, recreation program leaders, referees, sports instructors, and many of those different types of positions. The maintenance division, as a summary, spent a lot of time on regular maintenance, such as just daily trash pickup, washroom cleaning, social center setup, cleaning, grass mowing, snow plowing, gas plant monitoring and maintenance out at the landfill, generally overall landfill operations, which all collectively absorbs a significant amount of our time. With the pending cuts to the department, we did have a vacant maintainer 2 position, which we did not fill last year as a cost savings move, anticipating the dilemma that came to be as State Bill 1 last year. So we wanted to be prepared for that and not have to get rid of someone or eliminate a position after it was recently filled. Board accomplishments for the year. Collectively, you guys approved the 2024 annual report, approved new vehicle purchase, including a bunker rake for the golf course. We opened the new pro shop and cart storage facilities out of the golf course, approved the purchase of new golf carts out of the golf course, passed a lease agreement with School Town of Munster for part of Community Park for the future tennis courts, engaged CSK Architects for the professional services to design the West Lakes Park washroom building. We engaged HWC Engineering to redesign the clubhouse area of Centennial Park, engaged SEH Engineering for clubhouse electrical redistribution design. We approved the design of West Lakes Park washroom building, approved several resolutions required to complete the 2025 park bond issue process, amended the schedule of fees for the department based upon review and pending operational cost increases. We awarded the landscape maintenance contractor for 26 through 2028. We approved a new golf management contractor for the golf course beginning in 2026. And from a financial perspective, the Parks and Recreation Fund, which is our main day-to-day operational fund for running the department, we had a budget of $3.35 million, and we expended $3.12 million almost. So it was about 95% of what was authorized. So we came in a little bit under budget from that perspective. We also have a 2370 fund, which is a non-reverting fund that's not included in those figures. This is really where we can carry balances from year to year. This is where donations go into, sponsorships, different types of revenues like that, where we can track them, especially because they might be for a particular project or a particular program or something like that. We had $86,000 plus in revenue. We did spend more than that at just over 94,000, but as I mentioned earlier, we carry balances, so there's previous years where we had balances left, so that allowed us to expend a little bit more than we brought in last year. And then on the parking fund, we budgeted 85,000, had 54,000 change in expenses, and brought in gross revenue of just over $136,000. So doing pretty good there. Parks and Rec facilities, the gas to energy generator at Centennial Park was replaced. That was a real big one early in the year. New playgrounds were installed at Briar Creek Park and Cobblestones Park. The Bridges Over Ditches project to connect the pedestrian pathway from Munster to Highland over Hart Ditch and Katy Marsh Ditch began in construction last year. The Centennial Park washrooms were updated with new flooring and lighting. The Fisher Street Bike Trail repave was postponed until after the Bridges Over Ditches project and the county's project to maintain Schoon Ditch are completed. Both of those projects began in 2025. SEH completed the electrical redistribution plan to connect all the electric items at the park currently supplied power from the clubhouse. The pond fountains and associated equipment was ordered in 2025. And I will mention 2 grants from the Little Calumet River Basin Development Commission were funded and provided 10 trees at Bluebird, 12 trees at Burlwood, and 15 new trees out at Community Estates subdivisions park property. The parks and facilities, as far as our rental facilities go, we had 287 rentals. Tours of our facility absorbed about 100 hours of staff time. So we've been tracking that just so we're aware of how much time that consumes. The social center, by far our most popular facility, 137 rentals. That's on par with previous years. Park shelters was down a little bit from previous years. That was at 89. We were just over 100 last year in that category. But those are our 2 most popular categories for rentals. Out at the pool, we had 21,858 visits last year, which was a 14% increase over the prior year. The pool passes of 853, which were sold, was down about 13% from the year prior. Our biggest challenges out of the pool is still getting proper swim attire to be worn by all the participants, as well as having an adequate number of pool staff, especially trained lifeguards. We have had comfort there, but unfortunately we do get into overtime requirements because with lifeguards, we obviously to be open, we need to have them. And it does push us at times where we have to exceed the 40 hours per week that we try to keep our staff to in the summertime. The pool finances brought in, they were pretty much a wash with revenues, expenses were just about $378 apart from each other. So that was a good thing because the previous year we were slightly in the red, so that we raised fees last year to help account for that, and that did bring us back up to that number. Centennial Park parking, I mentioned this was the 3rd full season and the 4th season overall. The net income generated for the hourly, daily, and annual and violation enforcement fees totaled $78,000 and $78,070. That was our share of the revenues from that contract and that process out there. That is something that we deal with on a daily basis. Everyone in our office deals with it on a daily basis pretty much. But especially in the summertime, but even throughout the winter months at times with follow-up calls and things like that. Centennial Park Golf, town obviously contracts with Centennial Park Golf Management LLC to manage the golf course. The new pro shop and cart storage building were started to be used in 2025, which helped increase participation. There was a change in general manager during the 2025 season. Chris is here with us today. The golf rounds in 2025 were up 15.6% to 20,000, just over 20,000 rounds. Green fees stayed about the same, just it was a 1.7% increase. Cart fees increased by 1%. The range revenue was up by about 4%. The pro shop revenue was a big one, up 163%. I think you can directly attribute that to the opening of the new pro shop versus operating out of the old one, which was basically an open closet to try to limit the amount of people coming into the clubhouse building. Recreation programs and activities, those are overseen by Jill as superintendent and 2 recreation supervisor. They're always looking for ways to increase our programming and partners and finding establishments and other organizations to work with to increase the offerings that we have. Youth Soccer League, again, one of our biggest programs with 893 players, 146 coaches, 14 referees, 78 teams across 4 age groups in the 2 seasons, the spring and fall. Summer camp was just as popular as the year before. Enrollment for our summer camp last year was 95% filled within 30 minutes. So it goes real fast once it's made public. The tennis director returned this past year along with 12 staff. We had over 178 students participate in tennis lessons. We rekindled our partnership with South Shore Arts and also formed a new one with the Purdue Extension Office in 2025. 2025 teenager members were similar to the year before with 235 members. We had 6 special bingos offered as part of teenagers to an average attendance of about 7 per bingo. Swim lessons is always popular. Winter had 121 participants. Summertime, we had 232, which was on par with the previous season. We pretty much max out the available time slots that we have available. The teenager holiday party returned to Cloister in the Woods last year with 85 participants showing up for that fun event. Dog park memberships they're up and down slightly within probably 10 to 15 difference, but we were up to 261 members last year. We renewed the partnerships with Colette and Mayflower Tours, and we have multiple overnight trips booked as people come through to look for us to take some of those overnight trips that we cannot fill on our own, so we partner with those travel organizations to help make that possible. Continuing on with special events, Daddy-Daughter Date Night sold out just in under 3 weeks with 202 participants. An after-dinner option was offered with another 51 people attending. The Mother-Son Dance was introduced last year with 84 participants. The 3rd annual Home Improvement Fair ran with 23 vendors. Cash for Clutter, we had 193 sellers registered for the 2 events. However, we did end up having to cancel one due to inclement weather. The Community Egg Hunts had over 160 participants. The Munster Car Show with 159 vehicles on the pavement, 45 in the grass, 20 vendors, 6 food vendors, 8 sponsors. And it was a chilly, cool day this year, so it was nice to see those still big numbers for us out there. People's Bank, again, sponsored the summer concert series here at Town Hall with about 2,000 combined in attendance over the 5 concerts, 3 of which were moved inside the Southside Christian Church due to inclement weather. The Munster Civic Foundation donated $39,000 to fund our concerts out of Centennial Park last year. This included 5 Tuesday nights, including the Northwest Indiana Symphony, 2 Friday nights, and Decades Fest. The combined attendance between all of those events was also about 2,000 people. For the 3rd year in a row, our Kids Fest, while very popular with over 1,000 in attendance, this was the 3rd year in a row we had to reschedule it because of inclement weather, but we still got that big turnout, so that was something that we're very proud of. Jill does a lot of work for that event. The Touch a Truck had our best attended Touch a Truck event ever with over 500 people attending that on a Friday in July. The movies are always well attended. Those typically average about 460 people at each one of those. We do 3 of those in the summer and then 1 in the fall. The Region Eats Food Festival was held in June, and we had a nice turnout for that with 20 food vendors and 18 arts and crafts or business vendors. Bark in the Park was held in May. We moved it to May this year to get away from the Humane event that they also run in our parks, but we had 20 vendors, 4 food vendors, and 3 sponsors for that event. The Holiday Arts and Crafts Fair, again, another well-attended event with 122 vendors, 25 of which were new to us this year. We also had a wait list of 40 more, so it's always a popular event. And then we continue to support a lot of other community events. The Weed Wrangle at Heritage Park, the Canine Fundraiser at Centennial, the Independence Day Celebration at Centennial, the National Night Out, the Cruising the Ridge Car Cruise, and then the Monarch and Earth Day festivals at Heritage Park as well. On to our marketing efforts, our social media and marketing. We try to put the word out in many ways about the various programs and activities and events that we have. We use a lot of traditional ways, which is 10,000 recreation guides we put out each season, a fall, spring, and a fall, summer, and a winter, spring guide. We also use the monthly utility bill newsletter, the news you can use. We'll get into our social media of Facebook, Instagram. Our Facebook page a couple years ago was hacked. We recreated that a couple years ago. We're up to 2,900 plus followers, so that's slowly trickling back to, well, we're at about 1/3 of what we had before it was hacked, so we're getting there. Our Active Network, that is our registration software in the department, we use that through our email list. We grew that by 5.9% in 2025, up to over almost 10,000 contacts on that list. We also use the Smart 911 Rave system, which is a text message system that the town has. That is improved to 4,400 plus subscribers. And then one of the other newer ways that we used this year was Peach Jar through the School Town, which is their messaging system we can generate flyers out to particular age groups. Let me say it this way: grades, schools, or different types of facilities. So that's something new that we're getting into a little bit more this year, but that was something new for us this past year, so we were excited about doing that. We also list some goals here for 2026. These will be to continue on the next steps to demolish the Centennial Park Clubhouse and plan the redevelopment of that area, complete the washroom and storage building out at West Lakes Park, complete the bridges over ditches project from the pathway from Munster to Highland, repave the Fisher Street bike trail, complete the 2025 bond issue vehicle replacement purchases, determine the next steps in construction for the current tennis courts at Cobblestones Park, replace the Heritage Park gazebo and improve accessibility to that facility, replace the Monon Trailhead sign, add an arch at the Pennsy Trail and Main Street to match the other one at State Line, partner with School Town on the new tennis courts at Community Park, plan for beach park updates, including the playground and court areas. And that kind of summarizes that report. I'm happy to answer any questions. If not, I would ask that you do formally approve this report because it does meet the requirements for something that's in the NAF code that we're supposed to supply. And then we would share this with the council as our summary, but really they're more concerned about the goals of what we highlight for what's coming. Those are all obviously some of our goals. There's many that, and those things often change throughout the year, but that's where we're at as of today.
This looks awesome. Like, I can't say enough, like the variety of programs and like just all the activity and like how many things people have been part of through the parks. Like, that's amazing. Like, kudos to everybody in the parks team. Like, that's fantastic. Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. What do you feel like really contributed the most to like the higher, I mean, across the board, it seems like 20, 25% more engagement. What was different this year?
Jill doesn't take days off.
We should change that. But
it's a lot of work. I mean, part of that is her leadership with the recreation staff on the programs and events and things like that. The funding, the sponsorship. I mean, it really is a team effort. I mean, there's 6 of us here in the office, and then our maintenance staff. There's 8 out there. They really support everything that we do, and I think it just shows a hunger and a desire for people to want to have these nice, positive recreational activities within our community. Because this, and I highlight this is what we do. There's so many other organizations that you guys are well aware of that use our parks that are not us. Soccer is one of them here today. We have so many other, Little League to, cricket to lacrosse to, I mean, just everybody across the board. And I think that that's really what makes is the gravy or the frosting on the cake to a community is those nice finishing touches. People want those activities. And I think when you see participation rates like that, it's showing and reaffirming that, yes, we like this, we want it, keep going. Without them coming here and speaking to that, but I think that's the way that I take it. We also become a community where people seek that out. They come, it attracts people to Munster for these reasons, whether they be visitors or, but obviously for our residents as well, we want to have them come out and use these activities. I wish I had better numbers to figure out someday how to just tell us daily users in our parks, trails and things like that. I know that there's software out there that tracks people through their phones and things like that can tell that. They're typically subscription based and quite costly. Just to get those numbers for a report like this, while I would love to have that to take the pride in that, but I think collectively as a community, we see people out there using it We know from the amount of trash and things like that that we pick up, people are out there using them. So there is that, and we know that to be the case. So that it's hard to answer direct, but I think it's also a matter of, we also haven't had a lot of changeover in the last few years in our office, on the recreation side especially. For many years, our rec supervisors, it was kind of about every 2 years, we were recycling that staff over. Between Jill, Abby, and Mara, we're well into the 20, 30 years worth of experience with our department. So I think that's also something that helps us, where they build relationships and they can continue and be able to grow that from that way.
Good to hear.
So then motion to approve, yes.
A motion to approve our 2025 annual parks report. Here and review.
I'll second.
Roll call, Janice?
Jose,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Scott.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next on our agenda is we do have 2 members from the Munster Soccer Club. If you would like to
Yes,
approach the podium, and
thank you very much.
thank you for being here.
Yes, I'm Adam Scheckner, the new president of the Munster Soccer Club. This is Demetrius Manasopoulos, who's our vice president. Thank you very much to the board for hearing us today on our request letter that we submitted in order to have food trucks be available at West Lakes Park on game days specifically. In this instance, we are hoping to act as a conduit between the parks and these food trucks, where the food truck will request a permit from the town and pay the permit fees. They will be self-sustaining to supply their own water, their own power, take care of anything that the Parks Department will not have to take care of in that way, and not provide any undue hardship for the parks in that instance. Basically, we have an organization this upcoming season. So far, we have just under 300 kids who have signed up. Lots of families are out at the parks each game day for, could be many hours if they have multiple children playing there. And we want to provide them with an opportunity to get something to drink, get something to eat, so they don't have to be running back and forth. It would be our intention that this food truck would park in the parking lot, probably in the Horseshoe would probably be ideal, but we're open to suggestion for wherever the Parks Department for our spring season. We have spoken to this first year. If we are approved, we would want 1 or 2 maximum venture to go into that. Because West Lakes has 3 fields and has multiple games, it's a little easier to cater to a large. I think the difficulty might be is that the food truck, the juice also has to be worth the squeeze. And a lot of times at White Oak, there might be only 1 game because it's only a U14 field. We have teams that are playing on the road as well as at home. So there might be instances where we don't have a game or we have 1 game. So it's a little probably harder sell, honestly, for the food truck to say, okay, yeah, go out there just for that 1 game and apply for a permit for that 1 game. Whereas West Lakes, every given week, we have 8 to 10 games over the course of 4 hours or 5 hours from noon to 4 or 5 that'll be there. So there'll be a continuous, yeah. And this is not only for our players, but also for the visiting towns that come in throughout Northwest Indiana. And I think it shows something for like, okay, the town of Munster has this available. This is a nice perk. We've been to other towns that have a concession stands or things. It's not something that we necessarily want to run, but it would be nice just to provide that service for the members of our organization.
So there is a form, and I for some, oh, there it is, it's coming back up. So on the agenda, we have what we call our commercial enterprises permit. So there's an application, and it has all the fees and the details there that Adam mentioned. So I think, I mean, assuming you're okay with the concept of it, I think this form would be what we would apply to that, to define costs and define, how to make that process happen. They basically can just kind of reference, get in touch with food vendors, kind of just send them in. We would basically give them this form, have them fill it out. If it looks good, yeah, you're good, and we would also share this with the police department if someone came in, so they could be aware of, that there's not just some, because I know when we first put this form together, that was one of the concerns was, and at the time there were some trucks just showing up in town, parking and starting to sell, and without any permission of anybody. And that was something that we wanted to collectively make sure and be able to kind of coordinate and be aware of. I mean, even if someone does get sick, we need to know who was there, who sold to them, what do they have their health department permit? Do they, all the different pieces that go together with that. So, but I think that from that perspective, that form would be something that I'd have them share with any, prospective vendors, and then they can kind of coordinate and say, okay, yeah, vendor A, you're here on these dates, or vendor B, you're here on these dates, so we don't have too much overlap. I don't think you want to get too many of them out there. I know the food vendors well. They don't want to compete with anybody.
No, yeah.
There's not enough sales to make it worth their while otherwise. So
yeah, I think we're thinking like one maximum, and during a specified time that the games would be going on, and make sure it's clear that when the games are done, if they end at 4 o'clock, that's when your time to leave the premises would be.
Right. And we want to make sure, obviously, like they can't just park their truck there 7 days a week. No, it's just left there, and I think we'd want to do this kind of as, again, pending your approval, but I think it's worthwhile to give it a shot as a pilot type of test project. I think that there is enough, on certain days, there's enough games and activities there. Their schedule is difficult because, like Adam mentioned, all of a sudden it could be just a random week and they might have one team playing there and all the other teams are away, just luck of the draw. And they'll know that going into it. And they might say, hey, for that day, it's not worth trying to get
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I mean, this year there will be 2 weekends where there actually are Saturday games. I mean, and I know that the Parks Department soccer is also out there. So it could be, I mean, I'll lean on you guys for that, whether you'd want that option available for like the Munster Parks and Rec soccer as well as the Munster Soccer Club. Or we say, you know what, it's too busy that day. We don't want that out there. So, I mean, we're flexible in that regard.
Is someone from the board there every Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, we have, I coach 2 teams. We have a board. I'm sure, to make sure that somebody, yeah, exactly. They'll be, I mean, we have a, 8 to 10, or a 10-person board, and there's somebody there. We have to put out our corner flags before and after, and we have to put up signage for home and away and those sorts of things. So there'll definitely be.
It'll be highly likely there'll always be somebody there from the board.
Yes.
Because we have had, when we've had food vendors at Centennial, other food vendors just pull right in and try to start.
So,
yeah, in that case, we'd be up to tell them, I'm sorry, you don't have a permit to be there. You'll have to leave the premises. Yeah.
I think the other food vendors probably keep themselves honest to say like, hey, we have our permit.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
The one that came to Centennial that I personally spoke to, oh, I'm friends with this guy. And then I started wondering, did this guy tell this one to show up?
Well, and that's why in this beginning session, it'd be 1 or potentially 2 for the whole season that we would use different.
Sure.
So we'd be very well aware of who should be there and who shouldn't.
Well, and I think this is a pretty common practice across most soccer clubs because 3 of my 4 kids that have played in the Munster Soccer Club, I still have one playing at U14. That's why I asked about White Oak. But, I think it's a pretty common practice. We see at Chesterton, they have food trucks. The Alto has food trucks. Yeah, they all pretty much have food trucks available to fans. So I think that's a nice thing to have. And if we can make it work, I think it's a good thing.
I would just point out, if you look at the permit that Mark has included obviously, and that was one thing I was a little bit unclear about, was whether or not this was something that soccer was looking to try and manage, or whether or not it would still be upon the contractor to do so, because the permit requires its contractor.
The contractor would be submitting this. We would just kind of set them up to say, okay, please submit
You're the
for
ones we're
this date.
inviting on.
And we're inviting you
Yeah.
to do this on this date, and, yeah.
Because on page 2 and 3 on this questionnaire, it does lay out, obviously, there's a 3-week notice and a requirement to submit the specific date for when this is. So if they're proposing, and they have a calendar of those, right, for any one of these contractors, they would be able to put out specifically those dates. The fees on there are by date.
Yeah, so they're
So-
paying each date that they
For
go
each
out
date
there.
that they'd be coming
That's-
out, in addition to having to have a Munster business license, if they are in fact a licensed business in Munster, that obviously gets them a little cheaper rate on the solicitor's permits. So there's right there 3 permits potentially that needs to be submitted to town. So you've got several levels of control. And then obviously the liability insurance here, which will just need to be updated. Obviously, these are laying out that for the certificate of insurance fee, they'll have to be changed to the current, and the new golf partner as well as the town of Munster. But the requirements there are obviously, in place that would be applied for each of those events. I know that Mark and I talked too about this, with the fact that not only between what Munster Soccer can manage, but also because these are off hours when the Parks Department is closed, that clearly to have noticed the police department of who is licensed to be there each weekend and at which time, so that.
Yeah, if we had somebody, we would reach out to law enforcement if there was somebody who refused
Yeah.
to leave,
And
that
we want you
would
to
be
have
there, yeah.
that avenue and that response, where in other situations of law enforcement, if they don't know, and they don't have any involvement with this part of licensing for the town, they're.
Yeah, just so they have a heads up
Yep,
on, yeah.
so that then you have that support. So there's several layers here, to be able to protect the town, the soccer club, as well as the public and the children involved with this.
And you do have some that have approached you guys.
Yeah, Sammy Street Eats, who we've used at several of the festivals, is one particular one. So I know they've submitted a lot of applications previously and are familiar with the process and are insured. That's one that I know for
Right.
sure, yeah.
And we contacted another one too, a Munster business as well, for taco truck, and they've actually done a Centennial and all that as well, and plus
Okay.
house parties and all that stuff in Munster. So they've had their permits through you guys too. So
That would probably make it easier.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's what we kind
than
of,
somebody
yeah.
else's previous how we
Yeah.
do it, so.
I think it's great, like you said, I think it's expected by a lot of the parents and players, and so having something available there, especially a high traffic, it's a great pilot, especially if we're thinking about expanding in the future, and once we have the shelter there, I think we'll kind of feel out what, that can look like.
So with that permit already having been approved, I think we have that in place, and I think, I don't know if we need really any formal action, because the request is just more of a concept, is really what they're asking
Right, yeah.
for, than a specific approval, if you will, for this. So I think that I'm kind of hearing a collective agreement from you that, we can implement this out there at Westlakes for the coming year. Just we'll share that and, have them act as the conduit to facilitate getting them to us, and we can process it, getting it to us, as Nicole mentioned. Getting it
Yes,
to us,
the 3 week prior
Weeks
to
ahead
the
of time.
event, it will lead time, yeah.
And
yeah.
that allows us to get the word out, give them a physical letter back that says, hey, here's a permit. And then also, and maybe it's several dates, but then also to share that with the police department, so they can share with all their officers. So they have something, if they do get a call from someone that says, hey, because the other piece of this is, all of a sudden on Tuesday night, some random truck just shows up and
Right.
parks there, and you guys are out there practicing, you might say, this is not who
No, yeah,
we deal
exactly.
with, and you call, and we want them to be aware of stuff like that.
No, that's,
Absolutely.
And it also would allow for, once this does come into the Parks Department, for them to not only coordinate, and obviously these permits need to be submitted as part of an application, but also then to determine if that's involvement from, and it sounds like it's only gonna be at West Lakes, which would just be.
For at least, I mean, we'll see this, but yeah, I mean, White Oak would be nice. I understand
Well,
that,
that
but
could be
I
up to
just
the
think
contractor as well.
it could be up, it's
Yeah,
up to
maybe.
the, if what they want.
Yeah.
No, I think it's fair.
Because the only
But
issue that I see then coming up is placement, which would have to get input from the police department and perhaps even public works, so that it's not affecting parking, but it's not obstructing the rights of way, it's.
We actually have the perfect spot out there where it may conflict is with construction of the washroom building and staging. So that, otherwise, so that might be something we have to deal with, but again, I think it'll be,
hey, we'd be happy to move it if the washroom construction.
But we
gets-
will want to I mean, we do have irrigation out of Westlake Park. We're not gonna want it out on any grass. We're not gonna want. it
No,
on any
exactly.
Pathways blocking
sure.
access for people to walk around, you know, but we want to have it. in
So
a
that's
spot
where a
they
lot of
can
that
service,
time
so,
frame will come
yeah.
in to give.
Right.
Mark and staff.
Yeah, and we want it to be approved, so we knew going in, we could actually let our people and our parents and everything know, this will be out there, so you could plan ahead, so that, yeah, you don't have to bring a sandwich or something, yeah.
I think we're good.
The only thing I would ask is, you know, at some point, once we get this started, and they're out there, if you could either come back to another meeting or give Mark a report on how it's going.
How well it's going,
Yeah,
yeah, for sure, definitely, we'll track how much visitors or how they're doing, what, like sales wise and that sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, great,
Awesome.
well, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I'll make sure to send a copy of the application digitally to you, Adam, too, just so you have a copy of it.
Next is our TIPS cooperative purchasing agreement. This is another.
Yeah,
purchasing
so we're
agreement.
in several purchasing co-ops, agreements, Buy Board, Omnia Partners, Sourcewell, you've heard of a lot of those, I think, in the past. There's another one called TIPS that we'd like to join. It gives us the flexibility to help expediting purchasing in certain situations. Locally, some other governmental organizations are part of this, our school town of Munster and the Little Calumet River Basin Development Commission. This cooperative agreement has already been, they already have a cooperative agreement in place with the Vernon Jones Construction, which specializes in sports courts construction, which is something we're going to talk a little bit about further coming up here. Not to say that agreement into this TIPS organization locks us into doing that. It just gives us another tool in the toolbox. You know, and I think it'll, it really leverages the power of buying power with the group to these different vendors, so anything in the future can hopefully give us the best pricing that we can find for different particular projects and so forth. So we are recommending that you approve the attached interlocal agreement for the town to join the TIPS interlocal purchasing cooperative as attached.
I'll motion to approve the TIPS cooperative purchasing participation.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Janet?
Jose,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Yes. Next, we actually have an update on Cobblestone Parks.
Yeah, so just a review, back last May, we had a few concepts shared about improving the existing tennis courts that we presented two different ideas to either turn them into 3 pickleball courts or 6 pickleball courts exclusively and remove the tennis. We also mentioned at the time additional funding would be required. We did seek additional funding in the 2025 park bond issue for this project. Later in the year, we had some additional input from the community that there was a desire to not completely eliminate the tennis courts at Cobblestone. So worked with this Burns and Jones company as on a proposed design, which I'm calling kind of a 4-in-1 layout, which is 4 pickleball courts, and it would also salvage 1 tennis. So over the same footprint of where there's 2 tennis courts now, 1 tennis would be saved, the other tennis court would become 4 pickleball courts. All of them laid out in a north-south layout, which is the preferred design by tennis and pickleball players. The courts would be built via post-tension style, which would help them last much longer. That's what the school town is doing with new courts going into the community park soon. The new proposed design does allow for a greater recreational opportunity by continuing to offer tennis and also adding the pickleball option for the community as well. As previously discussed, a future second phase to this park would likely be needed to increase parking, either by extending the parking lot that's along Treadway to the east, or to remove at the west end of the park by the basketball, volleyball court and extend the parking lot over there. But those would both require additional funding, which we don't have right now. So that would have to be pushed into a future bond expense. And once we realize that there is a need for it, for the additional parking and so forth out there. So, so we do have a proposal, this Burns and Jones, who is actually going to be working on the tennis courts at Community Park for the school as one of the subcontractors. If they're in town, they have offered us the opportunity where there's some discount, so I'll bring that to you, but I did mention it in my memo. Their original cost for this would be $437,000 plus dollars. They would discount that by $20,000 since they'll already be in town for the tennis courts at Community, so that's some additional significant savings there on top of being part of this purchasing co-op. So I think that that's a nice little investment for us. So we'll, pending your approval, which we are recommending the approval of this design for that site, we would bring a formal proposal to engage that contractor to you at the meeting next month. So what we'd be looking for is approving of this design of the 4-in-1 and have direct me to bring that proposal to you at next month's meeting.
Did you feel there was ample room between the four courts?
Yes, yes, yeah. There will be between the pair of courts, there's a pair to the north and a pair to the south, there would be a 4-foot fence between the two of them.
Oh, okay.
The fencing around the pickleball half of it would be 4-foot fence. The fencing around the tennis court side would be 10-foot tall fence. There would be a gate at the north and the south end to get into both of these. In between at the very ends of the pickleball, we were going to leave just openings, not necessarily, so there'd be like a 5-foot opening at the east and west end of the fence that's between the pairs north to south. So I think that, yeah, I think that there will be plenty of space for everybody out there.
Will we have signage regarding animals on the court due to past visitors to our meeting?
We can do that if it continues to be a problem. Honestly, I think these will be used more than the 2 tennis courts, especially after they're brand new. And I think that they'll be heavy enough used that that'll deter that. However, we can always add signage after the fact if we need to. That's also one of the reasons why I didn't want to put gates from the north to the south of the pickleball. We're just going to leave them open. They're just so if people are in there, dogs in there, it's going to run over to the other side. So it won't. It'll. Now, if they close off the gates to the entire fenced-in area, yes, they could close off and have themselves a private spot. But I think that hopefully we'll watch that and see if that continues to be an issue once the project is there and moves along with a new facility.
Mark, the gentleman that came and spoke about cobblestones back in the fall, I believe, he came at least twice. Did he represent the HOA there, or was he just an individual?
He was an individual.
They were just heavily involved in tennis players,
Well, there was
kids.
the one that,
dropping his
there
name.
was a family that came that the daughter spoke.
Correct.
Remember the middle school
Yes,
is?
yes.
So this meets, because we're keeping it tennis courts, and this also meets what his expectation was, or the residents, some of the resident input he received.
I believe to be the case. Yes, yes. And I think with 4 courts there, it allows the for the courts to be together. It's the same footprint, so it keeps that relatively, in comparison to the other park users like lacrosse and Pop Warner and baseball that are out in that park. It's not taking away any additional green space that they've already been using.
Okay.
There might be a little bit during construction, but I think that impact is minimized by using the same footprint of what we're currently using. But I agree. I think it meets both of those comments that were brought to us throughout the last year between the family that wanted tennis some opportunity for tennis, and then for those who wanted an opportunity for pickleball, I think it provides both of those.
I'll make a motion to approve for the plan for Cobblestone Park.
Yeah, I'll second.
Roll call, Jens?
Jose,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Yes. That leads us to the last item for approval, and this is for our tractor purchases.
Well, you're skipping over one.
Oh, sorry, golf management.
Golf
contract
management,
status.
just wanted to give you an update. Nicole and I have been working on that, and Wendy heavily for the last month, 2 months, maybe. That went to them, last week, middle of the week, maybe last week. We sent that to them for their review. With the holiday, they weren't able to get that to us today, but we are hopeful that they are going to get us a response to that. There was many red markings that somebody put in there. No, I'm just kidding. But a lot of review, a lot of detail, and a lot of clarifications for things that, from our past experiences, we wanted to really end up having in a document. So if anything ever arises, there's kind of no questions. It almost directs us where to go. So a lot of kind of describing and details, not really not a lot of change to the guts of what they originally gave to us from that perspective. There's 2 ways that we can really pursue. We really want to get this executed with them as quickly as possible. So one would be to schedule another meeting to consider that, or the other option that I believe Nicole said we can also do would be to kind of authorize me to sign it once it's here and then bring it to you at your next meeting and just ratify that action. I think that you've already kind of made the motion that says, yes, we're going with this company. We've kind of put it into legal's hands to say, get us to the finished document, which is what she's doing. We're going back and forth with their legal perspective. So once that's done, I think we're there. It's just, we do want to bring it back to you at some point, but it could be done through a ratification at your next meeting and save us from having a special meeting. I don't know how quickly, sometimes it's difficult to get us together quickly, to make sure that we have enough. And right now with this transition that we're going through is, might make that more difficult. So did I summarize that
You did.
correctly?
It's really just to call it what you need to do. It has to legally come back in front of you for approval. By the board, we did a public meeting where you have contracts in front of you, but that can be, as Mark very clearly laid out there, can be the process. It's just a matter of if you want to or cross-reference that ahead. Obviously, your prior vote was on moving this on to legal and the treasurer review as well as the executive director. So you're really looking at what the process is to go through and the way this can best be expedited. We're hoping we have something back in the next week or so from them, but that's also the kind of the questionable factor here is I know that they want to move as quickly as they can too, but whether or not that's any indication, maybe Mark, that's a week or 2 weeks or, I know they're moving on it. So the hope would be that perhaps in the next 2 weeks that would be, if it was a matter of wanting to even try and pick some tentative dates. For a special meeting, obviously very quick just on that issue alone, if that was the case, if you were inclined to do that, if not to set to the third date.
Either way, I'm fine.
I think if you trust Nicole as the attorney to get us to that finish line on that legal document, I feel like you could authorize me today to sign it once that time's there, and then we'll bring it to you for ratification at your next meeting. I think that would be sufficient. So if you wanted to make that to be a motion, I guess.
I would ask for one or the other.
To
You to sign up. us to
for me
ratify.
to author, so if you would make a motion for me to authorize the approved contract
Sure.
after it's approved between both legal and the
To
firm.
sign, yep.
Yeah, to sign, to
Execute
authorize
contract.
to execute the contract. So a motion to execute, you wanna say it and then they say. You say it, and then one of them might say so moved after that. Let's try it.
Motion to
that way.
authorize Mark to execute the golf management contract on behalf of the board to be ratified at the February meeting.
a lot.
So one of you can just say so.
Yeah, motion.
So moved.
So.
I'll second it.
Roll call, Janice.
Jose,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Yes. All right, so that does lead us to our tractor purchase.
Yes, we actually have a couple of pieces on here. These are units of equipment that we put into the 2025 bond issue for the 2026 year. There's 2 new Z-Track mowers that we are replacing according to our replacement schedule that we have, and also 2 utility tractors. These are all out at Centennial Park. Collectively, we had budgeted $119,000 for those 4 pieces of equipment. The grand total after trade-in value for those same items going back to them out of our existing fleet would be approving a purchase cost of $80,296.88. This is through John Deere and Company Direct, but they get delivered by Custonia Tractor out of Crown Point as the local John Deere vendor for John Deere. So, and again, this is being done through their Sourcewell program, which is one of those cooperative purchasing agreements that already meets the competitive bidding aspect. So we're able to do this a little bit quicker. This comes in under budget, so we're recommending the acceptance of this proposal from John Deere for this purchase of these equipment items.
I don't remember, but were any of these for the golf course?
The tractors will be used at the golf course. There is one, I will point out, the 2 tractors, they're basically, actually, the 2 Z-Tracks are identical. The 2 tractors are identical, except for one comes with a bucket, one comes without. We can share the bucket when it's needed. So, and it saves us almost $7,000 there. So that's something I wanted to point out to you as well. But yeah, the Z-Tracks will be housed out of our maintenance garage at Fisher's at Public Works Department. That's part of our mowing fleet that goes around. And then the compact utility tractors will be housed out of the Centennial Garage. Our maintenance people in the park will use them, but the golf course will use them as well. So, and they're available for us if we ever need to come and grab them for a park or anywhere else. But
I just want to make sure.
that's
that
where we house
the
them.
new company isn't going to come in and say, no, we want this.
Yes, yep.
So, True.
I'll make a motion to approve the purchases as outlined in the memo for the John Deere tractor replacement.
I'll second.
Roll call, Janice?
Jose,
Yes.
Kristen,
Yes.
Yes. Before we adjourn, just a reminder, our next meeting is February 17th at 5 p.m. Motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I would have it.